Daniel Carter never imagined that the loudest silence of his life would begin with a single unanswered call. Rain poured heavily outside St. Mary's Hospital as nurses rushed a pale, trembling woman through the emergency doors. Emily Carter was 7 months pregnant, her hands tightly wrapped around her swollen belly. Her breathing was uneven, her vision blurred. Every few seconds, a sharp pain cut through her body like lightning. "She's bleeding," one nurse whispered urgently. Doctors quickly surrounded her. Bright white lights flashed above her as the stretcher moved down the long corridor. Emily tried to speak, but her voice felt trapped inside her throat. "My husband," she managed to whisper weakly. They wheeled her into an emergency room. Machines began beeping. A doctor checked her pulse, then looked at the nurse. "Call her husband immediately," he said. "Where is he?" Emily's phone was still clutched in her shaking hand. On the screen were 12 missed calls. All to the same person. Daniel. Across the city, under golden lights and flashing cameras, Daniel Carter stood confidently on a stage. He looked calm, powerful, completely in control. Reporters crowded around him. "Mr. Carter, what do you say about the rumors surrounding Miss Sophia Blake?" one journalist asked loudly. Sophia Blake stood just a few feet away from him, looking nervous but composed. She was his company's rising star, talented, ambitious, and now caught in a public scandal that threatened to destroy her career. Daniel stepped closer to the microphone. "I want to make this very clear," he said firmly. "Sophia Blake is innocent. The accusations are false. My company fully supports her." Cameras flashed. Applause followed. His phone vibrated inside his pocket. He felt it. He ignored it. Inside the hospital, Emily's body trembled as another wave of pain hit her. Tears rolled down her temples into her hair. "Please," she whispered again, trying to hold on. A nurse gently took the phone from her hand. "There are many missed calls from you to him," the nurse said softly. Emily nodded weakly. "Call again," the doctor instructed. "Tell him it's urgent." The nurse dialed Daniel's number. The phone rang. On the stage, Daniel paused for a second when he felt the vibration again. He pulled the phone out slightly and glanced at the screen. "Emily." His jaw tightened. "Not now." He pressed decline. Then he returned to the microphone. "My company protects its people," he continued confidently. "We do not abandon those who work hard and deserve justice." In the hospital room, the line went dead. The nurse tried again. No answer. The doctor's expression grew serious. "She needs emergency intervention," he said quickly. "We cannot wait any longer." Emily closed her eyes as tears silently slid down her face. The man who once promised to stand beside her at every step of this journey was not there. Instead, he was standing under bright lights, protecting another woman's future. And at that very moment, as Daniel defended his mistress's career in front of the world, his pregnant wife was fighting alone to save their child. Before Daniel Carter became a powerful businessman, he was just a man with big dreams and empty pockets. Years ago, when his small startup was nothing more than a rented desk and a borrowed laptop, Emily was the one who believed in him. She worked double shifts at a bookstore to help pay the bills. She sold her gold bracelet, the one her mother had given her, so Daniel could invest in his first business proposal. When investors rejected him, he came home frustrated and angry. Emily never complained. She would sit beside him on their small apartment balcony and say softly, "One day they will see your worth." "I already do." She cooked simple meals. She handled unpaid bills quietly. She listened to every new idea with shining eyes, even when she was exhausted. And slowly, Daniel's company began to grow. One investor turned into 3. 3 turned into 10. Within a few years, Daniel Carter was no longer struggling. He was respected. His name appeared in business magazines. People stood when he entered a room. They moved into a large house with glass walls and shining floors. Emily no longer needed to work. Daniel insisted she rest and enjoy life. But somewhere between success and ambition, something inside him began to change. That was when Sophia Blake entered the picture. Sophia was young, talented, and extremely driven. She joined Daniel's company as a marketing executive. She worked late hours. She admired Daniel openly. She often said, "I learned everything from you, sir." Daniel liked her energy. He liked how she looked at him, with respect, with admiration, almost with dependence. Soon, Sophia became the public face of the company's new campaigns. Interviews, brand deals, social media promotions. She was rising fast. Then the scandal hit. A competitor accused Sophia of stealing creative ideas. Social media exploded with rumors. Sponsors began to pull back. News channels started questioning her integrity. Sophia walked into Daniel's office one afternoon, her eyes red from crying. "If I lose this contract, my career is over," she whispered. Daniel felt something shift inside him. Protectiveness. Responsibility. "Don't worry," he told her firmly. "I will handle it." And he did. He hired lawyers. He arranged press conferences. He personally called sponsors. He stayed at the office past midnight, drafting statements and reviewing documents. Meanwhile, Emily's pregnancy progressed quietly. At first, Daniel attended her checkups. He held her hand during the first ultrasound. He smiled when he heard the baby's heartbeat. But when the scandal grew bigger, he started missing appointments. "Important meeting," he would say quickly. "Urgent press issue. Board discussion." Emily always nodded with a small smile. "It's okay," she would reply gently. "Work is important." She sat alone in clinic waiting rooms, watching other husbands hold their wives' hands. She listened to doctors explain medical reports without Daniel beside her. Sometimes she typed long messages to him about how the baby kicked for the first time. Then she deleted them. At night, she would place Daniel's hand on her stomach while he scrolled through emails. "The baby moved today," she would say softly. "That's great," he would reply without looking up. And slowly, without loud fights or angry words, distance grew between them. Emily never complained. But the silence between them became heavier than any argument. The doctor had warned them weeks earlier. "Her blood pressure is rising," he said seriously during one of the rare appointments Daniel attended. "Stress is very dangerous at this stage. She needs emotional support and rest." Daniel nodded quickly, checking his watch. "Of course," he replied. "She won't be stressed." But Emily was already stressed. She just never showed it. She felt tired all the time. Her body felt heavier than it should. Some nights she could not sleep. She would lie awake staring at the ceiling, listening to Daniel typing on his laptop beside her. She told him she was fine. She told the doctor she was fine. She told herself she was fine. Until the day she wasn't. It was a quiet afternoon when she went alone for another routine checkup. The waiting room smelled of medicine and silence. She sat carefully, holding her belly as a sharp pain tightened inside her. Her vision blurred for a moment. She took out her phone and called Daniel. Once. Twice. 5 times. No answer. Across the city, Daniel sat inside a glass conference room with lawyers and executives. Sophia's biggest contract was hours away from being cancelled. "If we don't respond now, she loses everything," one lawyer said urgently. Daniel's phone vibrated repeatedly on the table. He flipped it over without looking. "This meeting is more important," he said firmly. "We finish this first." Back in the clinic, Emily tried to stand when her name was called. Suddenly the room spun. Her legs gave out. She collapsed to the floor. Nurses rushed toward her as her phone slipped from her hand. "She's 7 months pregnant," someone shouted. "Blood pressure dangerously high. Irregular heartbeat." The doctor's face turned pale. "Prepare the emergency room. We cannot wait." They called Daniel again. This time the word was clear. Emergency. When Daniel finally arrived at the hospital an hour later, his face was tense but controlled. A nurse stopped him at the door. "She's in surgery," she said quietly. Daniel froze. "For how long?" he asked. "Long enough," the nurse replied. And for the first time, Daniel realized he might have chosen the wrong place to be. When Daniel was finally allowed to enter the recovery room, the world around him felt strangely quiet. Emily lay on the hospital bed, pale and motionless. Her lips had lost their soft pink color. Dark circles rested under her eyes. Tubes and wires surrounded her fragile body. The steady sound of the heart monitor filled the silence. She looked smaller, weaker, not like the strong woman who once stood beside him when he had nothing. Daniel stepped closer, his expensive shoes echoing against the floor. He had faced angry investors, powerful competitors, and public scandals without fear. But this sight made his chest tighten. A nurse adjusted the foreline gently and glanced at him. "She's stable now," she said calmly. "The baby is in the neonatal unit. Premature, but fighting." Daniel swallowed hard. "Can I see them?" "In a while," the nurse replied. "The doctor wants to speak with you first." Moments later, the doctor entered the room with a serious expression. "Mr. Carter," he began, "your wife's condition worsened because of prolonged stress. Her blood pressure has been unstable for weeks." Daniel frowned slightly. "But she never said." "She didn't complain," the doctor interrupted softly. "She came alone to every appointment." The words hit him like a sudden slap. "Every appointment?" Daniel repeated. The doctor nodded. "Yes. We asked about you several times. She always said you were busy." Daniel felt something heavy settle in his stomach. Busy. He had used that word so easily. The doctor continued, "Pregnancy is not only physical. Emotional support matters. She needed you." After the doctor left, Daniel stood alone beside the bed. Emily stirred slightly but did not wake. He pulled out his phone slowly. The screen lit up. Missed calls. So many missed calls. From Emily. From the hospital. Voicemail notifications. Unread messages. He opened one message draft she had never sent. It was saved automatically. "I felt dizzy today, but it's probably nothing. I just wanted you here." The timestamp showed it was written 3 days ago. His hand trembled slightly. He remembered standing confidently at the press conference. "My company does not abandon its people." The sentence now sounded cruel inside his own mind. He had hired lawyers to protect Sophia. He had argued with sponsors for her contracts. He had stayed awake all night writing statements to defend her reputation. But he had not sat beside his pregnant wife in a clinic waiting room. He had protected someone else's future and ignored his own family's present. Daniel looked at Emily again. Her hand rested weakly on the blanket. The wedding ring he once proudly placed on her finger looked loose now. For the first time in years, Daniel Carter felt small. Not powerful. Not respected. Just guilty. And the guilt did not shout. It whispered slowly, painfully, reminding him that success meant nothing if he had failed the one person who had never failed him. Emily woke up the next morning, weak but conscious. Daniel was sitting beside her, his jacket removed, his tie loosened. He looked like a man who had not slept all night. For a moment, she simply looked at him. No anger. No tears. Just distance. "The baby?" she asked softly. "Stable," Daniel replied quickly. "The doctors say our child is strong." Emily nodded faintly. Silence filled the space between them. Daniel reached for her hand. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking for the first time. "I made mistakes. I should have been here. I thought I was protecting what mattered." Emily slowly pulled her hand back. "You were," she said quietly. Daniel looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You safeguarded her career," Emily whispered, her eyes steady but empty. "But you abandoned your child." The words were not loud. They did not need to be. Daniel felt them deeper than any shout. "I can fix this," he said quickly. "I'll change everything. I'll step away from the company if I have to." Emily closed her eyes for a moment. "When I needed you," she said gently, "you were somewhere else. Not once. Not twice. Every time." A single tear slid down her temple, but her voice did not shake. "I waited for you in every clinic room. I told everyone you were busy. I protected your image too." Daniel felt his chest tighten painfully. A nurse entered quietly and informed them the baby would remain under observation for several weeks. Emily turned her face toward the window. "When I leave this hospital," she said calmly, "I'm going to my mother's house. I need peace. Our child needs peace." Daniel stood frozen. He had board meetings scheduled next week. Investors waiting. A company depending on him. But none of it felt important anymore. Days later, Daniel returned to his large, shining house alone. The rooms echoed. His awards still lined the walls. His company continued to succeed. Sophia's contract was saved. His reputation remained perfect. But his family was gone. And for the first time, Daniel Carter understood a painful truth. A man can win every public battle and still lose the only home that truly mattered.